Hello and welcome to the first video of this PHP tutorial series or course, if you want to call it that way. So on this very first video, I'm just going to explain what we're going to be doing, what assumptions I'm making on your knowledge, and so on. So the very first thing is I'm assuming you're comfortable with HTML and maybe a bit of CSS, but if you don't, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Also, I'm assuming you know a little bit about programming, like what programming is, a bit of like if statements, for loops, of any programming language, but just a tiny bit of experience. I'm gonna still go through it, but I'm gonna go a bit quick. So if you're not familiar with terms such as variables or if statements or for loops or while loops, then I would advise you to just go to the internet, and in a few minutes or a few hours you'll be able to just have a bit of knowledge on the concept of programming. Once you know that, you're ready to start. Also, what you're going to learn in this course is basically how to program websites on PHP, how to connect to databases. We're going to be using either MySQL or PostgreSQL. I'm not sure which we're going to use yet, but you won't notice any difference between them. They're basically the exact same. So again, if you know MySQL and if we do Postgres, don't worry, you don't need to change the entire mindset. For you, you're not going to notice any difference at all. So what is PHP? This is the annoying part of the course. So PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. What that means is PHP has ends on a .php file. So for example, here we have index.php, and as you can see, we have simple HTML. So if we go here, as you can see, if we load, it has index.php, and we have this website. Okay, so if we change this one to 1 and we load it here, that's going to change. Okay, so what is PHP doing? PHP is a file, and it's reading the entire file out of the PHP, and then it's reading everything, and it's gonna transform it, or it's gonna translate it into HTML so that the browser can understand it. Okay, PHP runs on a server, which means that if you want to install PHP in your laptop or a computer, either if you have Linux, Windows or Mac, you can install it. I would recommend a tool called XAMPP. I think it's capital letters, I'm not too sure, but if you look it up, you'll be able to install it in a few minutes. I'm not going to do a video about it because I'm using Linux and most people don't use Linux, and it's going to confuse a lot of people, so I prefer if you just by yourself go and install that tool XAMPP and you'll be ready to go. So once you have that, I also want to say that if you don't feel like installing anything because you're not sure that you want to learn PHP, I would recommend you to just look up somewhere a PHP Online Run. Okay, and any of these websites you can start running code and you can see the output. Okay, so if you do I don't know, echo, I'll explain this in a second. Okay, I think this is gonna be useful. And we run it. Let me close, semicolon, and we run it. That's gonna run it away. Okay, so any website like this one, right, phponline.com, you'll be able to just follow a few steps on what we're gonna be doing. So it'll be easy for you just to try and see if you like PHP, and if you don't like it, you don't have to install any tools. Okay, so now getting to the meat. Once you have your local server or local host, everything working into PHP, we can start. So as I said before, PHP is a programming language that runs on the server, and it's gonna, as the name of the PHP preprocessor means, is that it's gonna pre-process all the PHP file and it's gonna translate it into HTML. But you're only seeing here HTML. So what's going on? Well, let's say, for example, that we want to process something. Okay, so let's say we want to do instead of having here a static title like getting started with PHP, you want to say anything. So let's say a variable. Okay, what you can do is you can open exclamation mark PHP, and then you close it, the tag with exclamation mark close. Okay, and anything you write down in between these opening and closing PHP tags, anything in between, okay, is going to be processed as PHP. So for example, any variable has to have this symbol here, the $sign before the name of the variable. Okay, so let's say we have variable 1 is equal to my cool website, and then semicolon. So if at the moment, okay, if we save it and run it, you're not gonna see anything, because what PHP is doing, it is pre-processing this information and saying, okay, what you're doing here, you're just declaring a variable. In between these brackets here, this h1 tags, there's nothing. If, for example, we were to echo that variable, so we said variable 1, now what we're seeing my cool website. So what's going on? As you can see here, what PHP is doing is reading all the file. It has found this brackets here, this opening tags for PHP, and what it's doing is pre-processing this information, so it's calling a variable my cool website, and then it's echoing it. So it's sending it back to replace those tags. So as you can see, all we're seeing here is in between the h1 tags, we're saying my cool website. Okay, so that's the main basics of it. Okay, you could also like echo it twice, so it's not like you can just echo one thing, you can echo as many things as you want. We can echo a string. Okay, so you're gonna see one thing after the other one, and I suppose this is gonna get you the mentality of how this actually works. Okay, so let's go back to our variable here. We need to talk about the data types. Okay, well, first of all, we want to talk about the syntax. The syntax is again very similar to Java. If you've done Java, also variables have to have this $sign, so that's not very common in any language. Maybe I think in Ruby you can put it on before. No, that's wrong, not Ruby. But apart from that, the syntax is quite similar to, you know, JavaScript or Java or C. You know, they're all quite similar. Okay, it's not like a dynamic language like a Python or Ruby where you can skip all of the semicolons and all of that. You actually do need to declare everything. So then what data types do we have in PHP? Well, I think the very best way to show you what data types we have in PHP, actually I want to increase the size of that, is to actually let PHP tell you. So there's a very nice function in PHP called var dump. If you take anything as like variable in between, variable 1, it's going to tell you what data type it is. So this data, this variable 1, is of data. Its type is type string, and it's telling you how many characters there is. Okay, so let's try to say var dump 1. So what's 1? 1 is an integer of size 1. Okay, so what else do we have? We have true or false. That's a boolean. Okay, we also have floats. Okay, so there's numbers with decimals. Don't worry if you don't know all of these. You know, we'll figure out as we go. There is also arrays, which we'll do in a little bit. There's objects as well. Okay, and the very last thing is null. Null is a term for nothing, emptiness. Okay, no, that's it. So now that we know that, we can actually get into the meat of doing some cool things on PHP. So let's say, for example, that the title website will depend on the age of the visitor. So let's say we have a variable age visitor, and is equal to 18. Okay, so we can actually say if opening brackets age visitor is greater than 17, okay, we can say echo my super ass website. Okay, so as you can see, the title has been printed. So what happened here again in if statement is that we're saying if the age of the visitor is greater than 17, we're going to echo that. If it's not, so let's say is 11, we're not going to print anything, but we do want to show a title either way. So if it's not, we can say echo my super ass like that website. This way we're making sure that if the visitor with visitor's age is equal to 18, we can show that word, and if we don't, we just show a asterisk asterisk. So that's a basic, very basic if statement. We could also have else if. So for example, else if the age of the visitor is equal to 1, okay, then we don't want to show anything at all, because we don't want them to learn any bad words, not even that way. And if not, we can echo the same thing again, you know, my cool website. Now again, the age of the visitors is gonna be 11, so unless it is 1, okay, nothing else is gonna be printed, so it's gonna be something different. So now that we know this kind of basics, let's say we want to do a switch statement. Okay, imagine we had so many else cases. So if the age of the visitor is 1, if the age of the visitor is 2, and so on and so on, we might want to use a switch statement. Okay, so we'll write it down. So a switch statement looks like this: age visitor, and there's going to be different cases. So we do switch statement age visitor, so we do switch case 1. So if the age of that visitor is 1, we can echo you are 1 year old, you are 1 year old, 1 year old. We can do another case. Whoops, we can say if the fella is 2, we can say you are 2 years old, and so on and so on, and we can have a default value. So if, for example, none of these cases is true, so let's say it's 3, we can say echo you are more than 3 years old. Okay, so that's very similar to C, and I believe Java is quite similar as well, the syntax. So I think I'm gonna leave the video here. The next video we're gonna go through just basic loops, functions, arrays, and superglobals, and after that we're gonna start actually developing real websites with sessions, with users, and so on and so forth. Okay, connected databases. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you didn't, please leave me some feedback, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.